Hello, good evening. It's Dr. Margaret speaking, and welcome to this lovely live event. This evening, we are going to be focusing on sugar detox. Is it a quick fix or a way of life? So, I thought we would focus on this topic for a few reasons, really. Quite a few of you have been sort of messaging me and emailing me with suggestions for things that you might like to hear more about. And one of the things that quite a few of you have asked me about is kind of nutrition basics, what is good basic nutrition. So that was one of the triggers for me choosing this topic this evening. And the other thing is that, we are what we eat at the end of the day. And I think in January, more than any other time of year, we tend to sort of really focus in on, reconnecting with, are we eating in the right way for us, the way of eating that will support us best, and so on. So I thought just having a real good focus on some basics tonight would be a really good idea. So that's why I've chosen this topic. So quite a few are joining live, which is absolutely gorgeous. So hello, Victoria. Hi, Tracy. Gorgeous to see you. Michelle has joined. Hi, Michelle. Carol's joined. Darren, hello. Lovely to see you all. And Emma's joined. Hi there. So so as I say, I thought this would just be a really good topic, just to kind of do a bit more of a deep dive in. And also because very interesting, I think the minute you use the word detox, it tends to scatter people. It's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? You either love it or you hate it, or you're really for it or you're against it, or you really kind of get excited by it, or you go, oh, that's awful. It's a real divider. And it was quite interesting actually this week, just kind of when I was sort of trying to sort of explain, say to people, look, I'm going to be doing this live and it's on this sugar. And the minute I use the word sugar detox, there was lots and lots of very lively comments, shall we say. People who were clearly very upset by me using the word detox and telling me that I was being irresponsible and other things like that. So that was an interesting one, I thought. So hi Victoria, lovely to see you, darling. So as usual, great that you're here. Come and say hello. If you're watching this on the replay, you can still say hello. You can still post your questions. And as with all these live events, absolutely feel free to, put comments into the chat box, ask questions. If something comes up if I'm talking about something and something comes up for you and you want to ask about it, please feel absolutely free. I'm conscious that, we're on Facebook Live, which means I'm talking and you're typing, but, as much as we can within this kind of setup, if we can have a bit of a conversation, a bit of a two-way thing, that will be lovely. So don't feel shy. I don't bite. I won't think anything is too small or too big. And if there's anything that gets terribly personal for anybody, then sometimes I do sort of suggest that if it gets very personal and perhaps away from what we're talking about as a group, then sometimes I do suggest that perhaps we grab a bit of time at some other time just to talk things through. So don't feel that you can't say anything or that you're worried. So Rob's joined. Hi Rob and Joanna, gorgeous to see you. So the topic tonight is so who here has tried a detox of any kind, and what did you try? So whilst you perhaps have a little type of that, I'll just share with you one little experience I had of what I would call a detox in the classic sense, of that sense where you detox and you go for something like 100 million%, and it's all quite extreme and quite kind of cold turkey. So a few years ago, I picked up this beautiful book, and it was all about juice fasts. Now, and I thought, and I was really having one of those, every so often you have one of those wobbles, don't you? January is a popular time, but other time, sometimes you just think, I really need to sort myself out. And I picked up this book on juice fast, and it has some really lovely pictures in it, and it completely seduced me. So off I set on this juice fast. Oh my goodness, I think by the end of the day, I was trying to eat the cushions on the sofa. And by day 2, I turned into the monster from Mars. It was hideous. And I was shocked at myself, actually. It really was not good. And this was a few years ago. And, so I stopped. I quit the fast. And then I felt really guilty. I felt like I was a really bad person because I thought, you've got you've got no stamina. Why can't you just do this really simple thing? And I felt awful. I really beat myself up about it, but it really wasn't for me. And years later, now that I know everything that I know about nutrition and about functional medicine, I now understand why. Because my body was already having a hard time back then at handling the stability of my blood sugar levels. And the minute I then hit the juice detox thing, it went bonkers. Okay, so I really tipped my body over into a place it really hated, and it was literally screaming at me. So that's my personal share about juice. So what about you guys? So Carol, what have you done? Tell me more. What did you try? So I tried this juice fast, and I thought it sounded really sexy, and I liked all the pictures. But anyway, be interesting to hear. So if you feel like sharing, I would love to hear. So, but I think the word detox has a pretty bad rap because it tends to be sometimes it's quite an artificial thing. It's not something that you can really do like every day in your life. It's not a sustainable thing. When we think about detox, it's a sort of short, sharp, acute sort of intervention, if you like, that's meant to be a short, sharp sort of shock thing. Often they're quite harsh, and we tend to look for those things as quick fixes, don't we? And then if any of you have ever tried anything like a detox for, an intensive detox, that's a big departure from what you're used to, quite often what happens is then you get to the end of the 7-day thing or the 21-day thing, and it's like you have this whole rebound thing, and it's awful. So, in my own book, the word detox to me smacks of sort of short, sharp interventions that are probably quite extreme. Whereas I'm much more of a fan of something a bit gentler, a bit kind of, more sustainable, something that's a bit more, something you can weave into your everyday life, that works with your body, that's kind to your body, that's good for your body, that's going to support it, and so on. So, and then looking for that sustainability, because to me, if you're going to really focus and have a big sort of project around your health, it's got to be sustainable, hasn't it? If it's just for the short term and then you go back to your old ways, guess what's going to happen, isn't it? I don't know. Am I the only one who feels like that? Carol's saying I have really bad sugar. And you've tried the 5-2 diet. Oh my goodness. Yes. Did that turn you into an angry person, Carol, by any chance? Because it did when I did it. That was before my juice attempt. So, it did turn me into a really horrible person. Again, because I had sugar levels back then that weren't that stable, and they would very quickly go one way or the other. And if they went down, I'd be like really irritable and angry, and I'd go, no, I have to eat now, and I'd get really upset. And then if it went the other way, I'd feel really slow and sluggish. And it's not that our body is fundamentally excellent at keeping our blood sugar levels like really tightly controlled. But I was making my body back then work incredibly hard at doing that job. And this is why, when I then put it through its paces, it kind of went a bit nuts on me. So if that's ringing any bells. Joanna's saying, I tried the 5-2 but couldn't cope with low calorie days. No, me neither, Joanna. And I think the truth is that until your body and your health and your systems are balanced up in a way where you could eventually phase it in. And on the social sugar, I will talk to you a little bit about these kinds of ideas. But suffice it to say that, to go into quite an extreme version, the people who handle it well are the people whose sugar balances are already pretty good. I suppose in a way you could say, well, that's a good way to test whether it's good or not, and then if it's up the spout or not. But if it turns you into angry, if it turns you into irritable, if it Carol's saying I just wanted chocolate, exactly, if it just makes everything a million times worse, then maybe it's not for you right now. Yeah, so it's the right thing at the right time. A big believer in that. So this month, who did vegan January? I can't pronounce it. Veganuary. That's kind of doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't roll off the tongue. Did everybody do Veganuary? Did anybody do any other kind of, kind of weight loss thing? Or did you try to go gluten-free or dairy-free or paleo or keto? There's so many out there, isn't there? So sometimes I just think when you look at all these different kind of, I think we're so obsessed, with different ways of eating and food plans and programs and, books with women on the front cover looking super shiny and young and slim and youthful, and we think, I want to look like that, and off we go, we buy the book and we kind of do it for a while. But surely it's about something that's going to be sustainable for you in the context of your life and the context of your health. It's not, just none of them are good or bad. They're just, it's the right thing for you at that time, I personally think. So, but sometimes, when you're faced with all these things and you perhaps don't know which one is the right one for you, don't you just sometimes wish like a big voice would come out of the sky and go, I wish, Marguerite, this is the one for you. Here you go. That's the right one for you right now. Just relax into it, work with it. That's the right one for you. Wouldn't you just love that sometimes? I know in the past I definitely did. So Emma's saying, I've continued the sugar, live your life way of being. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy. And Carol says she's trying gluten-free and dairy-free. Yeah. And, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. And, as Emma's just said, I think the Such a Sugar, live your life way is literally what it says on the tin. It's such a sugar, but it's also living your life. And it's designed to be something you can do for life, which, sustainability, I think, is really important. Balance is sustainability. So, but yeah, so I have some people who I've spoken to recently who said, I have autoimmune disease. What's the right thing for that? Because again, once you start looking, there's a whole bookshelves of books of this is the right thing for autoimmune, and which one's actually the right one for you? Or leaky gut, you think you have lots of bloating, or you might have SIBO, or you might, should I do this? And the truth is, all of them are good, but at the right time, and perhaps in the right order, actually, because sometimes you just need to sort one thing out first before your body's ready for the next step, because then it's ready to heal that little bit, and then that little bit, and then that little bit. So it's understanding what these programs are trying to do as well. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. But I think what often happens, isn't it, that we start something and we kind of go, right, I'm really determined to start it, and then after a while you sort of fizzle out with it because it's hard to think, you haven't quite got that confidence. We haven't had the voice from the sky going, this is the right thing for you. This is good. Your health is going to absolutely flourish with this. If you had that voice, you'd probably feel a lot more confident about it, wouldn't you? Because you'd know for sure that, right, this is the right thing for me. And I think lots of people have signed up for the usual things like Weight Watchers and Slimming World and all these kinds of things. And they're all great programs, especially if you're looking for things like weight loss and so on. So, but the good news, I think, is that basically, if we can think of food is not the enemy. Food is everywhere. Food is not just our fuel, it's our social connection, it's a pleasure, it's a source of creativity, it's a source of, stimulation, of activity. Some people love to cook just for relaxation. Food has so many places in our lives, but the biggest one I think is about food being about connection. And so all the more reason, especially when you find yourself on a sort of faddy, should I say faddy? That sounds a bit dismissive, but a detox that's rather extreme. You can't share that with your family, can you? You're kind of off on your own in the corner doing your thing, but it's not like everybody can join in on it together. It's hard, So, and Carol saying, I just want to heal my tummy. Oh yeah, darling. Oh, and Kate's just joined. Hi, Kate. Yeah, Carol, I really hear you, honey. Really hear you. Yeah. So we'll. So the thing about so let's have a real good talk about sugar detox this evening. About is it just a quick fix? Is it a way of life? How does it work? How do we know it works? And all these sorts of things. So has anybody got any questions at this point? Tracy's saying, hi, Margaret, this is Richard, Tracy's partner. Aha, hi Richard. I'm a month into the ketogenic diet. For some, it's probably a bit extreme to drop to 20 grams of carbs a day. I've done this before, and for me, the problem is it isn't easy to maintain unless meals are planned. What's your opinion of the keto thing? This is a really, really great question, Richard, and thanks for joining us on the call and kind of being there, I think, with Tracy. So just to put the keto thing in perspective. So today we're going to talk really about kind of sugar detox, but if you like, sugar detox has a sort of, you can let go of just sugar, then you can let go of all carbs and there's been a whole thing about, the low carb, high fat kind of way of eating. And then the next step on from that is keto, which is what you're doing, which is like almost zero carb, basically. It's like minuscule amounts of carb. And then relatively speaking, I think they're high fat, aren't they? So you can think of them as a from one extreme, like they're kind of all versions of the same thing. They all try to reduce and get very mindful about the carbs, but to different degrees. And from my experience, the more extreme something is, sometimes the harder it can be to sustain it. Now, for some people, they feel fantastic on the keto. So the way that you're eating, there's nothing wrong with it. I tend to use ketogenic diets in my own practice, but for for a very particular purpose, for a particular amount of time. I don't recommend it in my own clients as a long-term strategy. And partly not because it's necessarily that bad for you, but it's just the practicability of it, the sociability of it, because food is a huge connector in our society, and quite rightly so. So you end up missing out a lot, and it becomes hard. So I often think it's about finding something along that line, whether you go from sugar detox to kind of lower carb to no carb, which is ketogenic. Does that sort of make sense? That sort of thinking about it as a sort of 3 steps really, and you're kind of on the most top step. Whereas you might find that depending on what you're looking for the diet to do, is it mainly for weight loss, Richard, or is it to kind of optimize energy, or just general health? What are you wanting the food to do for you? And Lee's just joined. Hi Lee, gorgeous to see you, honey. So we were just talking about different kinds of carbohydrate intensive ways of eating, Lee. So Richard, it'd be interesting to hear why you've chosen to put yourself on it. But if it's for weight loss, and really it's ketogenic has this really fabulous reputation, doesn't it? Where you switch from sugar burning into fat burning, and it's meant to burn off all your fat, and it's meant to be great. And for some people, that is fine. As I said earlier, if your body's ready to go there, and it can be a really good thing. But it's not for everybody. And if you're finding it too hard to sustain, you could come down a step and go from 0 carb back into low carb, or you could go more into sort of sugar detox work, or somewhere in between the two. So, there's nothing, and it will still give you amazing health benefits, as I'm hoping you'll kind of discover from the program today. So, So does that sort of help a little bit, Richard, in terms of, so my opinion of the keto is that in the right time, the right place, it's great. Personally, I only tend to use it for medicine. I kind of think of it as a medicinal food plan. So it needs to hit particular, when it's needed for particular medical situations. So for example, if somebody has really severe fatigue, and underneath all of it is to do with very poor mitochondrial function, then sometimes I'll switch them into a keto way of eating for that reason, for a finite period of time, not forever and ever, until the mitochondria have a chance to kind of fluff themselves up a bit, and then we go, So I hope that sort of makes a bit of sense. So I wanted to bust some myths about sugar detox and detox in general. So hopefully we've kind of, talked about a few, about the idea that detoxes are quite harsh, they're quite extreme, they're quite isolating. It's not a family way of eating or a sociable way of eating. So for all those reasons, there's nothing wrong with them at the right time if that's what floats your boat. But as a sustainable long-term way of eating to kind of create balance and restore health in the long term, I think they're quite hard work. So that's the detox thing. So the first myth, is it detox or is it rebalancing? Okay, so I think this is an interesting thing to think about, because as I've already said, detox is sort of short, sharp and painful, even though it's really good for you, and you've got to sort of grin and bear it and like drive your way through all the discomfort and the pain and the hunger and the grumpiness and everything, because you think it's good for me, or maybe it's not so good for you, versus more kind of if we think about rebalancing, restoring, realigning, because when the truth is that, when we're carrying excess pounds, there's the stuff that's out of balance, stuff that isn't serving your body. If we're always struggling with sort of, horrible PMT, or a really, wobbly menopause, or we've got skin that is always breaking out in spots, or we've got IBS that never seems to behave. All this stuff is the body out of balance, and if we can just give it what it needs to get back into balance, often it does a lot better. Okay, because the body's complex. You can kind of think of the body as like a complex system, a bit like a sort of Rolls-Royce engine, and if we don't look after all the individual parts, and the individual parts aren't properly talking to each other, it just doesn't run that well. It doesn't purr, and we want your body to purr. So So Tracy was just Richard is Tracy tonight. I think we've worked that out. so Richard, so you're saying weight loss is the main thing, but I found that I was starting to suffer from feeling sleepy all the time. I was looking to get away from a lot of hidden sugars in my food, and had read a bit about insulin resistance, had made it my aim drive to do keto. Perfect. So all of those things, in lowering your, reducing your risk of insulin resistance, starting to do the uncovering work around where are the sugars in my food that are going to pull my energy down, that are going to, all of that work you can do with keto, but you can also do it with low carb and also do it with sugar detox. So really, in terms of what you're looking for, Richard, any one of those three, so the sugar detox work, low carb, high fat, or keto work, will all do it. And if what you were saying earlier on about finding the sustainability is starting to get in the way, it's becoming stressful, it's becoming difficult, then I would perhaps just pull back and go to one of the other two levels, and we can, that. So Steph's just joined us. Hi, Steph. Gorgeous to see you, honey. So if we can kind of think about detox as a sort of clearing out and a cleansing and a letting go, I think that's a much kinder way, but with a view to rebalancing and realigning and restoring. So we can use our food to do all those things. It kind of stands to reason that we're going to feel better, aren't we? So, because detox is detox, letting go of stuff. It is part of our culture. When you think about, like we've just had vegan January, letting go of meat products, meat-based things, where we do things like dry January or Stoptober, all these things, or Lent, letting go of sort of chocolates and sweets and so on. So in our culture, we do have things that, already, encourage us to let go of things so we can start to rebalance. And I think this is a great thing, actually, sometimes just doing these projects, because it gives you that mindfulness around, what's my body like with this, and what's my body like if I treat it more like this. And it's, the body is incredibly responsive. You set it up like this and it goes, and you set it up like this and it goes, really, really important. And sometimes it's the tiniest things that make that difference. I find it, in my work, I find that continually astonishing. So Ewout has joined. Hi, Ewout. Oh, you're my country fellowman. Goedenavond, Nederland. And Claire has joined. Hi, Claire. That's lovely to see you. So I think, when we look at the myth, is it detox, or are we looking for rebalancing? And I think in our culture, back in the sort of 90s and 2000s, this detox thing was really, there's going for it, and it's something quite harsh, and but on the grounds that it was going to be effective, was very popular. I think now we're more in the frame of mind of we want it more natural, we want it more working with the body rather than kind of imposing something harsh on the body, and we want it to be, natural. A natural process, allowing the body to be how it's naturally meant to be, and giving it that kind of container to do that. So, so that's the first myth I wanted to talk about. So is it a quick fix, or is it a way of life? I don't know. I hope you're starting to kind of, hear which side of the fence I sit on. But yeah, so that's great. So Carol's saying, I've tried using honey and brown sugar, both still sugars, my darling. And Ewout is saying, dag, yes, dag, it's lovely. So Ewout, I hope you don't mind me saying, but he is a fellow, my fellow countryman. I'm from Holland originally, as you can probably tell by my slightly strange surname. And so I lived in Holland until I was 10 years old. And then I came to the UK, and I remember it very well, because I remember, sorry to digress slightly, but I remember going to the, kind of my parents going, right, we're moving to England. And I arrived in England and was taken to the local school, junior school, and not speaking a word of English. And it was a very interesting few months, kind of standing in this playground going, but I'm very proud to be Dutch, actually. So it's lovely to meet another fellow Dutch person. So the second myth around sugar detox work. So Carol, this is one for you, honey. So the thing that people say to me is like, yeah, so I've stopped putting sugar in my tea. And they look at me like, and I'm really pleased. I'm going, that's great. And now let's talk about the rest. Or people say to me, yep, absolutely, I've nailed that sugar detox thing. I've kind of stopped drinking Coke, and I'm now on zero drinks, on zero cal drinks. I'm on Lucozade that's zero cal, or I'm on the Diet Coke. And I go, wonderful, great that you've connected to the idea that sugar is perhaps not that great, but we've only done part. That's only like one step. of lots and lots of steps. When I talk about sugar detox work, it kind of gets a bit more involved. We are talking about things like getting connected to the foods that the body reads as sugar. Okay, so brings up a whole different ball game. And Carol, this is why I was just sort of kind of picking up on your comment about wanting to try and use honey and brown sugar, because honey is still a sugar, even though it is a natural sugar. So we tend to think, oh, honey is good for us. We tend to think that things like maple syrup or, date syrup or all these natural sugars are good for us. Problem is, body's still going to read it as sugar. So getting connected to that, and the minute we give the body anything that it reads as sugar, it kind of has a program that it runs, which, as Richard talked about earlier, is, he was trying to lower his insulin and prevent insulin resistance. And one of the things that happens when we eat any food that the body reads as sugar is that it pushes our insulin up. And if it does that repeatedly over the course of a day, our baseline level of insulin sits quite high. And that's what can then create, that's the sort of driving force behind lots and lots of chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes, lots of other inflammatory conditions actually, like high blood pressure, like, heart attack, stroke, like Alzheimer's. Lots of these kinds of conditions actually have high levels of baseline insulin, which eventually creates insulin resistance sitting at the root of what's driving them. And if you can just pull back on the baseline insulin levels, actually the body does so much better. So it's a real kind of piece of physiology. You're working with your body to kind of start to kind of put it back in a place where it goes, oh, and it can purr like a Rolls-Royce engine instead of kind of, struggling. The other thing that we start looking at is not just the zero cal, it's not just switching into artificial sweeteners, it's not just stopping putting sugar in your tea. It's about what you're doing to your palate. Okay, it's great because our palate gets used to a particular intensity of stimulation, an intensity of taste, an intensity of sweetness, and it keeps us stuck because actually, that's what our palate then expects. So there's that piece, and also it's how our brain gets triggered by, and there's a whole, lots of beautiful hormones like leptin and ghrelin and all these other things to do. But suffice it to say, your brain gets used to a particular set point, and when you start doing proper sugar detox work, and I don't just mean switching into, 0 calorie drinks or just giving up sugar in your tea or perhaps just having fewer biscuits and cakes, proper sugar detox work where you look at all those layers, then the body goes, ah. So the myth, sugar detox, well, that's just giving up sugar, isn't it? Don't know. What do you guys think now? And Mimi's just joined. Hi, Mimi. So who has thought about giving up sugar? I know Richard obviously has, and he has. He's done it, sort of on octane fuel and gone into the keto way of life. Who here has thought about giving up sugar and that kind of approach? I'll just give you a moment to just type into the chat box if you wouldn't mind. I'd just love to hear. As I said at the beginning, for those of you who joined the call subsequently, these live sessions, I could talk forever about functional medicine, but I would love for this to be a conversation. I'd love to hear what your experiences are. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on what I'm talking about. Please don't feel shy about typing into the chat box, and just because with Facebook Live, this is the only way we're going to get to talk, really. It's I wish I could just press the button and we could just talk for real. We could all just connect up. That would be great. But this is what the tool we're working with. So Anne's just joined. Hi, Anne. Lovely to hear you, honey. Doing all your beautiful work with your HbA1c that you were talking about the other day. So Carol's saying, I think it'll be hard. Okay, interesting. So who has anybody else here thought about sort of sugar detox as a thing, or have you gone for other things like, and saying, oh no, I missed this and I'm out at the moment. Can I? Yeah, you can absolutely watch and catch up. Don't worry, honey. So, and you can still leave comments and stuff on catch up. So don't worry. So who's thought that, Carol's just saying, I think it might be too hard. Does anybody think it might be just too scary or too difficult, or, something that's like, just a quick fix that, you just do for a short period of time, or is it more a sustainable thing? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear. So Tracy and Richard are saying, haha, that's a trick question. It's everywhere. Oh, do you know, you probably I so admire you for Richard and Tracy for kind of doing it, because it's actually a really tough way of eating when you first start doing it. It's quite hard, particularly when you first start to switch. That first week is really hard. So, you know, really hats off to you. And Carol saying, I think you're awesome. Oh, thank you, darling. That's so nice. Victoria saying, I'm trying to cut down on my sugar intake, small steps. Perfect. And Mandy's just joined. Hi, Mandy. And Ewart saying, I don't really eat sugar or sweet things, coffee and black tea. And say, of course, there's sugar in most foods, even things like smoked salmon. It's true. Once you start having a look, so, you know, once you start tuning into where the sugar lurks, actually, you know, as Ewart has said, and a few other people, actually, it's quite, it is quite a challenge, but it's about trying to kind of give the body, line the body up so it can kind of purr, you know, rather than be unhappy. So really interesting. So the next myth that I wanted to kind of talk about is that this idea of, do you go all in? You know, if you kind of decide, right, I'm going to go for sugar detox, do I go all in? Or is it, you know, is going cold turkey like you would do if you were doing a drug detox? You know, say if you were, you know, I don't know, on heroin or something, and you're going to detox, you have a stop date, don't you? And you stop like that. Do we do the same with sugar? Or is it better just to kind of, you know, ease your way in? Like Victoria's just been saying, you know, I'm just trying to cut down, I'm trying to get mindful, I'm just doing the small steps. You know, what's best? You know, and again, detox has a really bad rap for this, because I said, you know, it's this kind of real kind of all in, give it all up, like overnight, like a stop date, you know, for that you would have if you were detoxing from alcohol or drugs or, you know, anything else. And the problem is with that approach is that you have to hold the lid on really tight. And then when you, one day when you let the lid off, it kind of, you have this sort of rebound splashback effect kind of thing. So it's an interesting one. So Emma's saying, sugar detox work is straightforward. You cut out processed food and use whole grain rice, etc. in small amounts to replace everyday carb. Perfect, darling. So Emma, you did mention yourself earlier on about the sugar thing. So I'm sure since you've volunteered that yourself, I hope you don't mind me saying, but Emma's worked with me on the sugar detox program, and it's been, you know, it's definitely a journey, but it's about just kind of getting some clear rules of the road so that it becomes easy to do. So yeah, so it's lovely to hear you say that, darling. And Carol say, yeah, nearly most things from reading labels. Absolutely. So the, you know, if we can just rethink this idea that it's going cold turkey best, you know, I don't know, there's no right or wrong. But again, the way I tend to prefer is to think of it as like a sugar detox with love. You know, if we're going to do sugar detox, then do it with love, do it with compassion, do it with care, do it with nurturing yourself, rather than kind of giving yourself a really hard time and making yourself suffer, you know. So there's a balance, isn't there, between going, right, okay, I'm going to go for it, because there comes a point where you do need to make that decision, don't you? Right, I'm going to do this, you know, I'm going to commit to this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to just spend a bit of time just getting my head around it and getting organized, because that's always, you know, when there's a change to be faced, you've got to kind of get yourself organized, versus that harsh, like, right, tomorrow I'm not going to have any more at all, ever. And it's just really, really difficult, because, you know, you're not really giving yourself a chance, are you, just to kind of ease into it. So I guess it's a bit like, you know, if you go to a swimming pool, do you jump in at the deep end, or do you kind of walk down the steps and work out where the different depths are? You know, it's that kind of thing, you know. At what point do you have to start swimming and your feet can't touch the bottom anymore, you know? I guess it's the difference between that. And Ewart is saying, what about carrots? They are sweet. They are, Ewart, but in particularly when we do the Sasha Sugar Live Your Life program, we talk about things like starchy carbs, starchy veg, like carrots and so on, as like, because they're like slow release carbs. They're actually, you know, they will serve your body well. Okay, so if you eat, like with anything, if you only ate carrots, of course, you're eating lots of sugar that way. But actually, when they're prepared, you know, when you've cooked them or you've grated them raw or whatever, they're actually really, really, really good for the body. And they do have sugar in them, but they release the sugar into the body slowly. And so again, in Sasha Sugar, we spend lots of time. We spend nearly a whole week out of those 8 weeks really talking about this whole, really showing you and teaching you quite exactly what happens to your insulin level. So you really understand this thing between, you know, what foods that the body reads as sugar, so quick release stuff versus the slow release stuff, and how that sets your body up for success or not. And both in terms of things like weight loss, in terms of, you know, giving you more energy. This stuff is like, it's invaluable, you know, to know that, to understand that, and to work with your body in this way. I personally think it's actually quite a special thing. Carol saying, I'm trying to cook from scratch, so I know what's in things. I love cooking. Yeah, perfect. That's a really good way to do it. Like, you know, and you don't have to do, you know, when you cook your food yourself, you don't have to make it complicated. You know, simple is fine. So, you know, Sugar Detox with Love, it's about just slowly giving yourself time to walk down the steps of the swimming pool and just, you know, walk into the shallows and get used to the temperature of the water and all that kind of thing. You know, in Sugar Detox with Love, we sort of layer in the practices. Give yourself time to get used to the changes. You know, you don't have to make it hard for yourself. We do need to go, right, I'm going to go for it and take action and go in there. But you don't have to do it like hell for leather. You know, you can just do it in nice steps, knowing that you're doing it in the right order, so that you're secure you're going to get to where you want to get to, which is, you know, to lose weight or to increase your energy. So that really, you know, we're getting to master each step. So you get comfortable, you get to work out, how does this sit in my life? You know, I'm someone, I don't have time to cook, or I have to cook for, you know, 10 other people who all have different tastes. Working all that stuff out in the context of your life is really important. And so this is the, you know, the idea. Is cold turkey best? Don't know. You know, personally, I think just going in about saying, okay, Margaret, that's great. And David's just joined. Hi, David. So just going in, you know, a step at a time, giving yourself time so that you can work it out in the context of your life, what you have to do, your time management, what your skills are. Some of us are great cooks, some of us can hardly cook. You know, so finding all that out so that you can do it for real in a sustainable way in the context of your life. The other thing is quite nice is to get a bit of support with that, so that you feel, you know, confident. Maybe, you know, something that you know is going to work. That would be good, wouldn't it? So that was the next myth. The next myth is so detox. Is it just a quick thing? Doing a sugar detox? Is it a temporary thing? Is it something you could do, you know, only do for a short period of time, or is it something that you could do for life? You know, is it a quick fix or is it for life? And one of the things I really wanted to just talk about is the idea that once you start engaging with sugar detox work, and the kind of sugar detox work we've already touched on, not just not putting sugar in your tea, switching to diet drinks, not that kind of sugar detox. We're talking about, you know, really getting your head around foods that your body reads as sugar. And you mentioned one already, like carrots, starchy vegetables. These are foods that really serve the body, because not only have they got like beautiful quality carbohydrates, and someone else, I can't remember, was it Emma, was it you who said about you know, using whole grains? Really, you know, these are things that are full of nutrients. You know, they're really good for your body, and your body loves these foods. Carol's saying it sounds really good, and it is a way of life. Yeah. Personally, I do think so. But you know, and I'll explain more about why I think that, because it's not just through personal experience; it's also through lots of professional experience. But you know, earlier this week, I kind of printed it out, I think, because I was just amused by it. I did a little post called 13 Reasons Why Sugar Detox Can Transform Your Health. And, you know, it was a bit geeky, that post. I can be a bit of a girly swat and a bit of a geek, I'm afraid. And because I just get so interested in, you know, why do these things work? Like, how do they work with our physiology? You know, because, you know, we can all have food fads because, you know, someone's food plan has a big marketing budget behind it and it all sounds sexy and the pictures look good and we can all get seduced by that stuff. But what actually works at the level of our physiology? You know, this is what I'm interested in. Like, does it really work? Like, how does the body, you know, engage with this stuff? And one of the things about sugar detox, when you start looking at how that shifts your physiology, how it shifts how your body shows up in terms of your health, your energy, your mood, you know, how it creates all the brain chemicals to help you have a lovely mood, how it starts to balance things out so things don't tip over quite so quickly. You know, so far as ladies, you know, when it's our time of the month, we don't have to have horrible PMT. You know, when we come up to menopause, and for men, andropause, we don't have to have all these horrible kind of difficult times with, hot flashes all over the place and not sleeping and horribleness, because a lot of it is down to kind of what our physiology needs from us at that point in time. And if we really support that, actually our body can go, oh, okay, yeah, I can shift from this gear into that gear. No problem. Thank you for giving me what I need. Yeah, and it's learning what that looks like. And this is why I love the sugar detox work. Well, one of the reasons why I love it so much, partly because it's nice and simple, partly because it's really easy to do once you just get your head around a few of the basic rules of the road. It's really doable. And personally, anyway, so going back to my geekiness. So I published this post and there's a little excerpt of it there, and if you go back through the posts, either on this group or in my general Facebook page, Dr. Margaret Health, you'll see it there. But it was saying 13 reasons why sugar can detox. And it had things on there like, it supports mitochondrial function. And I love mitochondria because the mitochondria are like the tiny little kind of batteries that we have inside each cell that produce our energy. We want to be like the Duracell bunny, don't we? We want to just have energy all day long and not get tired and not keep flagging and not feel like we have to sleep 20 hours a day just to get through the other 4. All of that fatigue that so many of us struggle with. So getting a mitochondria, so our energy, when you start to look at our energy production systems in our body, what does it take for those to be kind of supported? So first of all, swinging blood sugar levels. Now I mentioned this already a little bit early on, and the truth is that our body has amazing systems, hormonal systems, biochemistry that keeps your blood sugar level, within 2 millimoles per liter. It's accurately kind of held in there's instramine in check, but to do that takes a lot from the body to deliver that level of homeostasis, that level of stability. And if we can just support that stuff, it starts to make our body behave a lot better. Whereas if our body's always having to battle against, sugar levels that coming up, oh, she's eating another, donut, here we go, sugar coming in, guys, we've got to quickly muster to kind of bat it all back down again. Whereas if, oh, she just had a lovely bowl of lentils, oh good, we like that because the sugar's going to arrive slowly and we can cope with that because that's, we don't have to go hell for leather. So the body doesn't like being put into situations where it has to go hell for leather, okay? It likes just being able to do what it's designed to do, and it's pretty good at that, doing that job. So those swinging blood sugar levels, what I'm talking about is how hard the body has to work to keep the blood sugar level stable. So I'm probably using the wrong phrase for that, aren't I? Because the blood sugar levels aren't really swinging. It's just that they would if the body didn't have to work, if the body stopped working so hard. So we're trying to lighten the burden of work that the body has to do, so it has that energy and capacity to attend to other jobs. So for example, particularly people who struggle with things like adrenal fatigue, the minute you stabilize their blood sugar levels, suddenly they go, okay, because those poor adrenal glands, they find they experience it as a source of stress to have to deal with sugar levels that go like this. Okay, if they just have sugar levels that go like this, they go, oh, okay, I can relax now. Okay, do you know what? I'm going to make sure that, we support your sleep a bit better now. And I'm going to give you a little bit more energy now because actually I don't have to be so stressed out. So there's lots and lots of mechanisms that mean that if you have if you do this sugar detox kind of way of life, way of eating, that your body just goes, and it can start purring again like a Rolls-Royce engine. And lots and lots of mechanisms that come into play. But balancing sugar levels is a really huge one. It impacts adrenals, so that, if you're struggling with adrenal burnout, with chronic stress, with fatigue, all these things really helped by sugar detox for this reason. I've talked about how it improves mood. So the way it does that is it's literally through supporting the brain to be able to do the job of producing serotonin. So that's your happy chemical, if you like, in your brain, just better by the brain not having to deal with all this balancing sugar jobs, literally. And it's to do with, there are more sort of, if you want me to unpick that more, we could do. But suffice it to say, that just doing that sugar stabilizing work through doing the sugar detox work and really getting your head around what that looks like, doing it with love, with compassion, with, in a manageable, sustainable way, so that, that the body just starts to really function a lot better. So on this thing, I'm just looking at my list here. So boost energy levels, by lowering those insulin levels, we've talked about this a bit already, and that starts to reduce the inflammation in the body as well, because insulin is very pro-inflammatory. It drives inflammatory processes. So, you know, if you're somebody who has, say, you know, arthritis or any other inflammatory thing, eczema, you know, please do sugar detox work. Please give it a go, because actually your body will probably go, oh, thank you very much, just by lowering that inflammation through lowering the insulin. Now, I'm not saying insulin is the only thing that's keeping your inflammatory thing, your arthritis or your eczema in place, but actually it'll just have one less thing to battle, one more chance just to come back down into kind of a nice place. And if you're somebody who struggles with things like depression, anxiety, getting those serotonin levels balanced up through sugar detox work, you know, the body can go, oh, okay, thank you. One less thing I have to battle, so I've got a bit more space to keep this lot in check. We talked about, you know, it allows you to handle stress better through supporting your adrenal glands. It improves your sleep, but because when our blood sugar levels are doing that kind of hard work thing, sometimes our body doesn't quite get it right, and it means, you know, we end up with a little bit of sugar dips at night, and it makes you sleep quite restless. And sometimes people even wake up in a sweat, and they think, you know, particularly if you're a woman, you think, oh my God, I'm having a hot flush, but actually no, you're just having a sugar dip. So again, doing the sugar detox work and just making it easier for the body to do those stabilizing jobs is so good for you. And also, you know, ultimately thinking about playing a much longer term game actually prevents lots of chronic diseases, you know, that are rife in our society, like, you know, type 2 diabetes, like hypertension, like heart disease, all these things, you know. So when I did my so Carol's just saying psoriasis and IBS, depression, anxiety. Yeah, darling, you know, I would strongly, you know, as a starting point, this would be so awesome for you to kind of dip into this kind of work. I'm not saying it would be the whole answer, but it would give, you know, and for some people, you know, they do the sugar detox kind of work, particularly the sugar detox with love kind of work, where it's all a bit more controlled, layered. We're not doing that cold turkey harsh stuff. We're just doing the layering in of the practices and just getting that in place, so that the body can just go, you know. For some people that completely, you know, I've had people who've come to do this kind of work with me because they have IBS or something, and literally that's all we did. We did sugar detox work and, you know, some good hydration work, and probably a bit of work around optimizing their vegetables so that they get the phytonutrients from, like, you know, the sort of beautiful liver support parts of the vegetables, and their body's just gone, oh, thank you very much. And they, you know, they've walked out the clinic, like, you know, 2 or 3 sessions later, like a different person. You know, really, it's massive. For other people, it's only part of the story. For some people, it's like that's all the work they needed, and they've been stuck for years. You know, so it's just lovely. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. So myth 4: is it a quick thing, or is it more of a deeper impact thing? Is it a superficial piece of work, or is it like really meaningful deep work that allows the body to realign, reconfigure, and go, I can now purr like a Rolls-Royce engine? Well, I don't know. What do you think? You can tell I'm a big fan of this sugar detox work, can't you? But, you know, when it, you know, as I said right at the start of this session, when we talk about you know, why did I decide to do this session? Lots of you have been asking me, can we talk about nutritional basics? And this is a huge one. This is a biggie. You know, if you want good nutritional basics to help you lose weight, to help you optimize your energy, to just attend to your health, your well-being, you know, I would strongly recommend that you start with sugar detox work. You know, and I've seen it time and time again, you know, I've told you about a few kind of clinical situations where, you know, people have been actually pretty sick. You know, they've come to see me as a functional medicine doctor, not as a, you know, because they've got stuck. You know, they said, I've done everything I can and nothing is helping. And, you know, 2 or 3 sessions later, and literally when I look at the actual interventions that we've done, and you know, often it's also then helping them to understand what's going on in their body, because I think sometimes that is also part of the kind of therapeutic understanding what's going on. But often the actual intervention, you know, just good, really good, solid sugar detox work, and, you know, the vegetable work, the hydration work, and it can really shift things massively. So If it's good, do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Carol. So we've just had a few people join. Preeti has joined. Hi there. And Margaret Williamson. Hi, Margaret. It's lovely to speak to you. We keep connecting on the comments, don't we, on the Facebook posts. It's so nice that you're here. It's really great. So cool. So the last myth I wanted to talk about is this idea that, you know, people sort of say, yeah, but isn't it like really hard work? I think someone earlier on this call said, I can't remember who it was, like, isn't it really hard? You know, and I guess we tend to think, God, if it's going to be hard to begin with, then what's it going to be like, you know, a month down the line, 6 months down the line? Like, it's going to get even harder, isn't it? Like most things do, because, you know, like Richard just was saying earlier, you know, he started off on the ketogenic way of eating, which is a kind of extreme form of sugar detox where you have 0 carbs, 0 sugar. Yeah, but it's basically still sugar detox work, but it's a very extreme form of it. And nothing wrong, by the way. It's just, you know, right time, right place, and all of that. But, you know, if it's hard to begin with, isn't it going to get harder? You know, and things that do that, to my mind, they're not sustainable. Well, actually, with sugar detox, what starts to happen is it actually, as you get into it, it becomes easier to do because you start to feel more well and lighter in your mood. You're not so anxious, you're not so irritable. You know, your whole system just starts to hum. It goes, okay, I feel good with this. So actually, you want to do more of it. And, you know, interestingly enough, I know some of you on the call tonight have either done my sugar detox program in the past, or you're currently doing it with me. So I run a program called Sasha Sugar Live Your Life, which is an 8-week program that we start, you know, from time to time. The next one's actually about to start on Monday, so if anybody's interested in it, you know, there are still spaces on that program if you would like to. But suffice it to say, it's an online program, so you get all the stuff delivered to you, kind of all the videos and the workbooks and so on, by email once a week. But then we have a live classroom every week, so you're not, you know, you're doing it at home, but there's also a group. There's live classroom every week, so you're not, you know, it's not like an online course where you just kind of buy the stuff and then, you know, you have to do it yourself. It's not like that at all. It's like, you know, as real time as we can make it. So we do travel the boat together. But anyway, suffice it to say that, you know, what quite a lot of the people who do the work, because it's 8 weeks long, at some point something will happen. Someone will go on holiday, or like last year we had Christmas in the middle of it, and it was really interesting to see, okay, you know, what happens. I start to feel this good. Usually by week sort of 4, 5, 6, people are starting to really feel the benefits. And then they get to week sort of 6, 7, something will happen, or they go on holiday, or like we had Christmas, and then we all kind of, you know, fall off the horse a bit because, you know, it's Christmas. And then how do you feel, the contrast that you feel, and actually getting back into it, you know, this is I guess the point I'm trying to make is that actually it gets easier to keep going with it, because the more you fall off the horse, you realize actually that you just feel so yuck when you're not doing it, and when you are doing it, you feel so good. So actually, eventually, it just becomes a really easy thing to sustain, because you feel much better on it and you really notice the difference. So it gets easier that way, and it also gets easier because actually once you've learned the basic kind of rules of the road, and there aren't that many actually, but, you know, once you've learned those and kind of, you know, layered them into your life so that it's a really sustainable thing for you and your family and your home life and your work life, then actually it doesn't need a lot of thinking about, you know, it doesn't need, you know, you're not going to be the person who has to go out to dinner and go, oh, can't have this, can't have that, can't have so-and-so. You know, you're not going to be that person, okay? You're not going to be the person who has to scrutinize everything because, you know, it might have a bit of whatever that it is that you're trying to avoid in it. You're not going to be that person. If you have to be that person for medical reasons, absolutely fine. But I think, you know, some of the food plans that are out there at the moment, they really make it difficult for us. You know, so all I'm trying to say is, it doesn't, if it's hard to begin with, it's going to get harder, isn't it? Well, actually, sugar detox work, not. It goes the other way around. It gets easier. Okay, way easier. All of that said, every time we try anything new, we're a beginner. Okay, so it's good to go with beginner's intention of, okay, I'm open-minded. I'm going to take in this information, take in this new way of looking at my health, looking at my body, looking at what I need to nurture myself, looking how I look after myself, and all of those pieces. and then I'm going to just walk with that, and as I learn to walk, then eventually I can run, and it'll all just run really super smoothly and be great. So actually it doesn't get harder, it gets easier. So that's the last myth of sugar detox work. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna, sorry, I'm talking too much. I'm not. So Carol is saying science has proven that your tummy is your second brain. Yeah. So your gut is your second brain. Absolutely. They're very, very closely linked. Tracy is saying, I had a bad time for the first week or so, but I'm feeling great now. So no feeling hungry all the time, no feeling tired in the afternoon. So I hope the longer I'm doing it, the better I feel. Cool. So that's on the Richard, sorry, I keep saying Tracy, Richard and Tracy. Yeah, the first week is always difficult because you're switching fuel suppliers. I'm saying, I agree, this has been my experience. Yeah, and mine too, actually. I find sometimes, personally, I generally do eat a detox way of life just because I've got used to it, and it's absolutely fine. And I can easily go out to dinner, I can go around to friends, I can go on holiday, and none of it is a problem. But it's just getting your head around it. And Carol's saying, I find eating healthier makes me happier. Eating potatoes makes me feel bloated. Fine, so no potatoes for you then, Carol. So, yeah, so I hope that has dispelled some of the myths. So just to quickly, I'm just got my little notes here. So the first myth was, is it detox or rebalancing? Well, I hope that you can now see that sugar detox as a way of life is actually about rebalancing, reconnecting, realigning. That it's more than just sugar. It's more about the foods that the body reads as sugar, resetting the palate, resetting the brain responses to sugar. Going cold turkey is not necessarily best because actually it's quite harsh. It's, something a bit kinder. We talked about the steps down into the swimming pool, finding your depth. Much better, much nicer, much kinder. And is it a quick thing? Is it a quick fix, or is it something much deeper? Well, I hope you can see now that sugar detox work really hits the deeper layers. Yes, it can be a quick fix if you go hell for leather with it, or even do, kind of a more extreme, intense version of it, like Tracy and Richard are doing. They do the ketogenic, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking for something a bit gentler, a bit more sustainable, a bit easier to kind of fit into then absolutely at any time you wanted to, particularly Richard, if you wanted to kind of switch into this way of eating, it's fine to do it. You're not going to undo any of the work you've already done. It's just going to help you do the progress, but just in a slightly different way. And the last myth was, if it's hard to begin with, sure, it's only going to get harder. Well, actually, no, because once you've learned the way of doing this, actually you can do it anytime, anywhere. It gets easier, and actually you feel so good that if you ever do fall off the wagon, as it were, like Christmas time or something, you realize just how yucky you feel. I mean, literally, we had people in the group going, I've got a sugar hangover, this is like, because that is how you feel. But most of us don't realize that's how we feel because we think it's normal to feel like that. So, and I did promise you I would just explain to you, why personally I'm such a fan of sugar detox work. So first of all, because its effects are so far-reaching, it's just incredible. And I see this in my work over and over again. And even health situations that seem pretty intractable, we start with this work, and it's just incredible because it's like with the body, it's like it's locked down when it's sick, and once you open the lock, it kind of goes, okay. And then other things start to open up, and other things start to, and suddenly you have this kind of unfolding, and the body comes back into a much better way of being, And for some people that can happen really quickly. For other people it takes a bit longer. But it never ceases to amaze me. If you give the body what it really needs, what it really loves, it'll just take it and run with it and go, oh, thank you very much. So the health benefits are incredible. Also, sugar detox work, it's really simple. It's so simple, and it's cheap. It doesn't need any special kind of expensive supplements. It doesn't need any special tools. It doesn't need anything. It's the only thing that I can think of as cheaper is fasting. Okay, so and we talked at the beginning about fasting. We talked about it briefly as an experience. We didn't talk about it as a topic, but suffice it to say, it means you're not having to eat shakes or funny things. Instead of, you're actually eating real food. It's really good for your body. Your physiology will love you forever. And it's about realigning, rebalancing, so that your body can do what it's naturally designed to do. Your body is designed to be at a natural weight for you. Your body is designed to have, natural amount of energy. It's not designed to be chronically fatigued and exhausted and beaten down. It's not designed for that, So, and as I say, in my work particularly in my work as a functional medicine doctor, I see this over and over. This is sort of flowering, sort of opening up of the body, and it's just amazing to see. Like, excites me like nothing else. So, so mentioned a couple of times, I do have my lovely online program, which I absolutely adore for all the reasons I have just said, because it gives you all these tools. It gives you them in step by step, one layer at a time. Over 8 weeks, we travel together, and we really do travel together. We all get to know each other as a group. It's not an anonymous thing. It's, it's very like, we really do the work together, and it is lovely. It's lovely to get to know each other. It's lovely to work together on something as a project. We're all in the same boat, all working towards the same thing. There's lots of beautiful information, and then it's a nice layered approach that you really get to build this work with confidence and with structure and with support. So, and because I've seen the clinical benefits of it in so many people now, I just love it. Really, really love it. And if you feel that it's something that you would like to take part in, then you're absolutely welcome. I'll just pop a little link into the group just there. Let me just grab that. So, if it's for you, it's fine. If it's not, that's absolutely fine. But, just thought I would offer it. It's there if you would like it. So, thank you all so very, very much for listening. I massively appreciate your time. It is so nice when we're all together here live. Please do feel that you could share this with friends. Obviously we are in a closed group here, so you would need to just invite them in, but you can invite your friends in yourself and join them into the group. The way the group is set up at the moment, that is possible to do that. Obviously I'm the administrator of the group, but if I felt that someone was creating havoc for the group harmony, I would soon let them know. But so, short of that, do feel free to invite your friends to come and be part of the group, to watch lives like this. Also, do keep, I'm really, really want us to grow this group together as a community that's about natural health, about self-empowered health. And I'm really happy to share my knowledge, share my experience. So, keep sending in suggestions for topics you'd like me to talk about, like this one. This, as I said at the beginning, this event has come about because quite a few asked about basics of nutrition, and this is a really big one. Sugar detox work as a basic nutrition. So yeah, absolutely. Feel free. So, so far the suggestions that are sitting on the drawing board, we've had a few people ask about a session on menopause, and particularly natural menopause, which I'd be delighted to do. Looking at food basics, so we've made a inroad into that. People have asked me about probiotics, and also about inflammation and what drives inflammation in the body. So those are all sessions that at some point will come through. And so Carol's saying it's good as it's easier to do with support. Yeah, absolutely, Carol. And thank you. It's so lovely to see you so passionate. No more tablets. So, well, tablets are not necessarily bad, my darling, but the right thing at the right time. That's important. So thank you all so much for joining me live this evening. I massively appreciate your time. Please do share this, invite other people into the group, because the more of us that travel the road together, the better we all do. So Victoria's saying, thank you, I've really enjoyed this live event, look forward to the next one. It's been very informative, I've learned a lot, going away feeling more positive about sugar detox. Brilliant, lovely. That's gorgeous to hear. So yeah, so if anybody wants to join, then this next Such a Sugar Live Your Life, and we start on Monday the 4th of February, so that's next Monday. So there are still places available. If you'd like to join me, do give me a shout, and we'll get you sorted up with that. Okay, Emma's just joined. Hi, Emma. Emma, I'm so sorry, my darling. We are literally just finishing. We've just been on the air for about an hour. So if you're able to watch the replay, do. If you want to message me about anything, then I'm happy to talk to you about that, of course. Okay, so wish you all a good evening. Bye-bye.